Welcome everyone to another episode in the perspective drawing series. In this video we are going to look at how to draw inclined planes in perspective. So throughout this series we have been dealing with a lot of horizontal and vertical lines, and now it's time to take a look at how to construct objects that include inclined planes. So I'm going to start by drawing out a box in 2 points perspective. Now imagine that we have a lid on this box and I want to open it up. The lid is on a hinge. Let's say the hinge is on this side in this example. So as I lift this up, each of these lines, excluding that edge where the hinge exists, would raise up. Now before I do this, I'm going to draft in an ellipse as a guide, and we will be covering ellipses soon in this series. This ellipse will help me judge the depth of the lid for the box as it swings open. And so here I start to draw the lid of the box raised up on an incline. Now these two lines and these two here are parallel, which means in perspective they converge to the same vanishing point. However, because these two are on an upwards incline, they will converge to a new vanishing point below the horizon line. And this exists on a new vertical line which is drawn at the original left vanishing point that these two did converge to. The vertical horizon line acts the same as the horizontal horizon line. This line here at the top of the lid will still converge to that original right vanishing point, so I hope that makes sense. What I will do now is I'll open this lid up further and you will be able to see how the vanishing point moves further downwards on that vertical line as well. Now imagine that I flip this lid all the way back so that it's heading in the other direction. Here I just do the same, except the vanishing point would be higher up on the vertical line above the horizon line this time. Notice how the sides of the lid start to angle inwards, converging to that same vanishing point. At the end of each of these examples, I'll display a scaled out version that shows all of the construction lines and vanishing points. An obvious example when it comes to inclined planes are pitched roofs. Again, I'll draw a box in 2 points perspective, and now I'm going to add a pitched roof on top of this. Now this is very simple. I begin by finding the center, dividing this box, and then I work out how high I want my pitched roof. I then take a line from the top of this to the corner. I also do that with the other side to establish the front plane, a simple triangle. Now at this point I could continue to add the other side and build the roof like that, but I want to give you another example of that vertical line we have for the new vanishing points. It's going to be at the original right vanishing point, so I'll draw that in. Now if I extend both these inclined lines until they meet the vertical line, I will create some new vanishing points for the roof. These are both off the page here, but I can estimate their convergence. I can then use this to construct the roof, and these lines are parallel so they will converge to the same vanishing point. Before we move on, I'm going to create 2 more duplicates of this alongside each other. Again, we have covered these techniques in previous episodes. I start by duplicating the front plane of this box in perspective, and I construct the rest using the lines that exist already. Now I can use these vanishing points on the vertical line to add the pitched roofs onto each of these. So now I'm going to construct a more complex rooftop where there are inclined planes in both directions. Again, I start by drawing in a form in 2 points perspective. So now I am going to add an interesting looking roof. There are alternative ways to construct this, but I'm going to continue to use the methods that we have been looking at. So I'm going to add a sloping roof on both sides here in different directions. So first I'll start with the roof heading to the right. I'll add a vertical line at the right vanishing point and extend my inclined line to this and create a new vanishing point. I then use this to complete that sloping roof. Now, I can't use this vanishing point that I've made for this next sloping roof because it's heading in the other direction, so instead I have to do the same as I just did but on the other side. I create a vertical line at the left vanishing point and extend an inclined line to this, and then I use that new vanishing point to construct the rest. Now I can use this vanishing point to add a smaller roof to this section of the building here. This will mean that these are both on the same angle. Of course, if this was at a steeper angle, the vanishing point would move higher on this vertical line or lower if it wasn't as steep. But I'm able to use this vanishing point to complete that roof as well. So let's stop drawing roofs for the time being and let's take a look at how we can draw some stairs. I feel like I could make this a tutorial in itself because people always want to know how to draw stairs, and it's fairly easy because stairs are just inclined planes but with steps added onto them. So again, I'm going to draw out a box in 2 points perspective. Here there is a vanishing point on the right, and there is also the left vanishing point that is off the page. This is going to be the landing for our stairs, which also means that the height and width of this will be the height and width of the stairs that we are drawing. Now it's up to you to decide how many steps you want and how long you want your flight of stairs to be, and like I said, stairs are just inclined planes with steps added onto them. I decide on a suitable length for these stairs. Now just so you know, the height from the floor to the top of the last step is referred to as the rise, and the length of all of the steps on the ground plane is referred to as the run. That's just some useful staircase terminology, especially if you study architecture. So once you have an idea for how many steps you want, you can divide the rise and then you can divide the run. Here I divide this rise up into 8 equal sections. Now to divide this run into equal sections, I'm going to use the technique that we had looked at in the episode on division and multiplication. Go ahead and watch that if you haven't already, and then come back to this, but hopefully you know how this is done. Whilst the rise was divided into 8 sections, I'm going to divide this run into 7 because the landing there is going to count as the final step. I then use the vanishing points to divide these sections. Now I can add an incline, but before I do that, I draw out that first step, and this is so I can then add an inclined plane from the top of this first step to the landing. I create the vertical line on the right, and both of these inclined lines will converge to a vanishing point on there. Here this vanishing point is off the page. I then create another set of inclined lines, this time from the bottom of that first step to that vanishing point on the vertical line. Now these two sets of lines will determine the inclined plane on which to draw the steps. At each of those divisions on the run, I bring up some vertical lines to the top of the inclined plane. I can then create these steps using the right vanishing point, seeing where the existing construction lines meet that inclined plane. Now that I have one side drawn out, I can extend this to the other side using the vanishing points and complete the stairs. Now we are not done yet because I want to add another set of stairs next to this heading in the other direction. This one will be easier to construct because we have all of the information we need from the first set of stairs that we had drawn out. So I start by duplicating the front plane of this box that we had created for the landing. Again, these techniques are often used and I had covered them in a previous episode. Once I know where the second set of stairs will go, I can start to bring these measurements upwards and use the vanishing points to transfer them across in perspective. I establish the front plane for the second set of stairs, and I can add the inclined plane between this and the landing. Now these inclined lines will converge to that vertical line, but this time it will be lower down below the horizon line because it's heading in the other direction. Also, because the angle of the inclination is the same for both stairs, the distance between that right vanishing point and the other two on the vertical line will be the same. I start to bring those dividing lines for the run across, and then I bring them upwards, creating some vertical lines. This can sometimes seem to be more complex in its appearance than it actually is due to all of the construction lines, but it's actually straightforward. I'm using the vanishing points both left and right to build this second set of stairs. So this was an episode on inclined planes, and there'll likely be many more examples of this in the future as we move forward with this series. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more, then be sure to leave a like. Also be sure to check out the Patreon page where I produce these study documents that are essentially tutorials on paper. With all that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.